back to Virtual Story Time.
This week is super cheesy. We're talking about cheese. Who likes cheese? Raise your hand. Me too. January 20th is National Cheese Lovers Day, and we are celebrating.
Yep, so sit back, enjoy our cheesy stories, and we'll see you soon. Bye. All right, so our first story today is one you may have heard before. It's the Stinky Cheese Man. And so I'm going to be reading the story, and Miss Cammie is going to be doing a flannel for you. So let's dive right into this. Once upon a time, there was a little old woman and a little old man who lived together in a little old house. They were lonely. So the little old lady decided to make a man out of stinky cheese. She gave him a piece of bacon for a mouth and 2 olives for eyes and put him in the oven to cook. When she opened the oven to see if he was done, the smell knocked her back. "Phew! What is that terrible smell?" she cried. The Stinky Cheese Man hopped out of the oven and ran out the door, calling, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the Stinky Cheese Man." The little old lady and the little old man sniffed the air. Can you sniff the air? "I'm not really very hungry," said the little old man. "I'm not really all that lonely," said the little old lady. So they didn't chase the Stinky Cheese Man. The Stinky Cheese Man ran and ran until he met a cow eating grass in the field. "Wow, what's that awful smell?" said the cow. The Stinky Cheese Man said, "I've run away from a little old lady and a little old man, and I can run away from you too. I can. Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the Stinky Cheese Man." The cow gave another sniff and said, "I'll bet you could give someone 2 or 3 stomach aches. I think I'll just eat weeds." So the cow didn't chase the Stinky Cheese Man either. The Stinky Cheese Man ran and ran until he met some kids playing outside the school. "Gross," said the little girl. "What's that nasty smell?" "I've run away from a little old lady and a little old man and a cow, and I can run away from you too. I can. Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the Stinky Cheese Man." The little boy looked up, sniffed the air, and said, "If we catch him, our teacher will probably try to make us eat him. Let's get out of here." So the kids didn't chase the Stinky Cheese Man either. By and by, the Stinky Cheese Man came to a river with no bridge. "How will I cross this river? It's too big to jump, and if I try to swim, I'll probably fall apart." Just then, the sly fox, who shows up a lot in stories like these, poked his head out of the bushes. "Why, just hop on my back and I'll carry you across, Stinky Cheese Man." "How do I know you won't eat me?" asked the Stinky Cheese Man. "Trust me," said the fox. So the Stinky Cheese Man hopped on the fox's back. The fox swam to the middle of the river and said, "Oh man, what is that funky smell?" The fox coughed and gagged and sneezed. Can you give a really big sneeze? Achoo! And the Stinky Cheese Man flew off his back and into the river, where he fell apart. The end.
I'm going to read about something that eats a lot of cheese. It's a mouse that snored. Let's hear all about it. Once there was a quiet man who was as quiet as a mouse, as most mice, that is. He lived in the country in a very quiet house. The quiet man's quiet wife padded about in slippers. She never made the faintest sound, not even when zipping zippers. They had a cat named Mose who went about on tippy toes, and a parrot named Will whose only words were, "Hush, be still." While Will on his perch would usually stare, Mose mostly slept on a parlor chair. The quiet man, the quiet woman, the quiet cat and bird ate their dinner, sipped their drink, and never spoke a word. nor would they dare eat noisy food like crunchy celery, munchy radishes, or a snappy carrot. Not even the parrot. They ate instead stewed tomatoes, mashed potatoes, and pudding made of bread. At bedtime, they switched off the light and ever so softly whispered, "Good night." "Good night," said the man. "Good night," said the woman. "Good night," said Mose to Will. "Hush," said Will. "Be still." And silently they slept, not a cough, not a sneeze. The only sound heard was the wind in the trees. One stormy night, while everyone slept, into the house a little mouse crept. He was a city mouse with city ways, who was tired and hungry and had seen better days. "Now for something to eat," said the mouse to himself, and he quickly found food on the pantry shelf. He found the cheese. "I hear something," thought the woman, awake in bed. "I hear something," thought the man, raising his head. "I hear something," thought the cat in the chair. The bird opened his eyes and began to stare. The mouse, now sleepy himself and too full to eat anymore, yawned, fell asleep on the shelf, and at once began to snore. What does it sound like when you snore? Do you go, oh, and what snores! His snores were roars with whistling encores, and each snore was louder than the snore before. He snored so loudly, pots and pans rattled and rumbled. A freshly baked cake immediately crumbled. The light fixture began to tremble and sway, which startled the cat, who kicked over a tray. Glassware clinked, dishes clattered, a bowl from the cupboard fell and shattered. The lamp on the bureau was overturned, water in the fish tank gurgled and churned. That's a lot of ruckus from snoring. Shutters flew open, noisily banging. A picture dropped from where it was hanging. Furniture danced about the floor. A parlor chair went out the door. Have you ever snored that loud? And bouncing on his perch, poor Will frantically screeched, "Hush, be still!" The snores were so loud, the house began to quake. The snores were so loud, the mouse was shaken awake. The mouse opened his eyes, looked about in surprise, and could hardly utter a word, for standing before the mouse with the snore was the man, the woman, the cat, and the bird. Quick on his feet, and to break the ice, the mouse said, "Your house is very nice. And oh my gracious, this pantry is spacious, and I've never quite seen anything like the soup in this tureen." "Hush," screeched the bird, "be still." "Tell us," said the man, "if you will." "Why you are here," said the cat. "Yes," said the woman, "please explain that." "Very well," said the mouse, "I will explain. It was all because of that cold, cold rain. I was in the storm that drove me to your house, a lost, frightened, hungry, drenched to the whiskers, ever so tired, wandering, homeless mouse." "Ah," whispered the woman, "how sad." "Ah," whispered the man, "it's really too bad." "And now I will go," said the mouse, "sorry to have stirred up this fuss." "Nonsense," they cried, "you will stay here with us." He was taught to speak in a hushed whisper, and to sound out his words softly but crisper, to sit quietly in his chair and never rattle silverware, to make sure to laugh in very soft chuckles, and once and for all stop cracking his knuckles. One thing they taught him that made him feel proud: he learned to sneeze, but not out loud. Soon it was clear for all to see he was quiet as a mouse ought to be, except while he was asleep, for then, even louder than before, the mouse continued to snore and snore. All through the house his snores could be heard, not by the man, oh no, and not by the woman, no, no, no. And not by the cat or the bird. No, 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 no. They slept peacefully and cozily as bugs. Why do you think that is? For now, each goes to sleep wearing earplugs. The end.
The rat looked down in the dell and shook his head. What a waste of a chunk of cheddar! He turned to go into his hole, and then he stopped. He looked back at the cheese, standing all alone in the middle of the meadow. So yellow, so mellow, so tasty.
This is ridiculous. What's the point of a hunk of cheese being left out and lonesome when it could be enjoying the company of a perfectly fine rat like me? None that he could think of. The rat licked his lips, grabbed a napkin, and scurried down the hill for some dinner in the dell.
And just where do you think you're going? Asked the cat, suddenly jumping down from a tree. Me? Answered the surprised rat. Why, just out for a short stroll. You don't look like you're strolling, said the cat to the rat. You look like you're scurrying and sneaking.
Scurrying and sneaking, well, the rat sounded very insulted, and as he was quite a good actor, almost convinced the cat that he was indeed out just for a walk. But the cat, who was very clever herself, caught sight of the napkin.
Aha, she declared with a wave. And just what is this? She asked, pointing to his napkin. The rat grumbled. Oh, if you must know, I'm going to get the cheese. The cheese, said the cat. You can't do that. Everyone knows the cheese stands alone. Give me one good reason why the cheese stands alone, said the rat.
The cat thought, well, it's the song, she said. Yes, it's most definitely the song. The song says, the cheese stands alone, and that's that. Well, I think it's a silly song, said the rat, taking back his napkin, and I'm going to eat that cheese.
The cat looked at the rat. She looked down in the dell at the cheese. It did look rather lonely. They could not argue that the song was silly, and as finicky an eater as she was, the cat did have a fondness for a nibble of cheese now and then. You know, I believe you may be correct. That cheese should not stand alone. The rat smiled and held out a paw. Care to join me for a bit of cheddar, my dear? So off the two went down into the dell, headed for the cheese.
They were just about to crawl under the fence when who should come running up but the dog. Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? The dog was such a bother. Calm down and sit, said the cat, if you must know. We're going to eat the cheese. The cheese, said the dog. The cheese in the dell? The cheese in the dell? But the cheese stands alone. Everyone knows that. Yeah. Stop your slobbering, muttered the rat. We all know about it. But why should good food go to waste just because of some silly song?
The dog thought, which was not an easy thing for him to do. He looked across the dell at the cheese. It did look very lonely, and even the dog had to admit it was a silly song. You know, he said with a drool, I could go for a nosh right about now myself. So off went the rat, the cat, and the dog to eat the cheese.
Just then, from across the field, the farmer's daughter came running towards them. Here, boy, she shouted for the dog. Woof, woof, arf, woof, arf, the dog replied. That dog can never keep a secret, grumbled the rat. The child looked at the dog. She looked down in the dell. Why, you aren't thinking of eating that cheese, are you? Naughty, naughty puppy. You know the cheese stands alone.
The dog rolled over with a whimper and a whine. The rat moaned, This is pitiful. I'll take care of this, said the cat. The cat walked up to the child, purred, arched, and mewed. The child giggled. You know, that piece of cheese does look awfully yummy, and I haven't had my afternoon snack. What about you? So off went the child, the dog, the cat, and the rat to eat the cheese.
And then Mother called. Shh. said the rat, the cat, and the dog. "I'm going to eat the cheese," called out the child, who was completely unshushable. "What a little blabbermouth," muttered the rat. "No, no, you can't eat the cheese," said Mother. "The cheese stands alone. Wait until your father comes home." So they all waited for the cow to come home with the farmer, who was the father, who was told by the mother that the child wanted to eat the cheese.
The farmer in the dell shook his head. "Nope, can't eat the cheese. Cheese stands alone. Everyone knows that." The wife looked at the child, who looked at the dog, who looked at the cat, who looked at the rat, who looked at the cheese. It was very quiet until everyone's tummies started to rumble. After a long day's work, the farmers grumbled the loudest. "Suppose that song is rather silly," he said, looking down in the dell and staring at the large hunk of cheese. "It truly is," said his wife. The farmer took off his hat and scratched his head. "What should we do?"
The rat elbowed the cat, who poked the dog, who nudged the child. "Let's have a party," she said. Woof, meow, squeak. The animals joined in. So the farmer followed his wife, and his wife followed the child, who followed the dog, who followed the cat, who followed the rat, who was already wearing his napkin, down into the dell to eat the cheese.
And then the farmer stopped. "You know," he said, "if we're going to have a party, we really should have some apples from the orchard to eat with the cheese." "Delightful idea," said his wife, "and I'll fetch a few pears." "I'll get the crackers," added the child. The dog thought some sausages would be tasty as well, and the cat insisted on milk. So off went the farmer and his wife and the child and the dog and the cat to get some apples and pears and crackers and sausages and milk.
Everyone left the cheese alone except you-know-who. "Take your time. I'll just stay here and hang out with the cheddar."
The end.
What do you think? Do you really want to eat some cheese for a snack right now? I do.
I would too. So thank you so much for tuning in to Virtual Storytime. We do have an extra cheesy craft for you this week as well. So the instruction video for that will go up tomorrow morning, and you can come pick up the supplies that you need here at the library, either in person or via curbside, whichever is easiest for you. So thank you so much and have a great week. We will see you next time. Bye.